sound of Universal Broadcasting Network.
'Cause you make me feel like I've been locked out of hell.
A mix of today's hits and hard-to-find favorites, combined with the most entertaining and intriguing talk anywhere. This is your sound. This is the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network at UBNradio.com. In the future, talk radio will actually educate, inspire, and make you think. The future is now. Topics and music that affect your life from Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at UBNradio.com.
Welcome to the National Safe Child Show, addressing the health, safety, and welfare of all children nationwide, because it shouldn't hurt to be a child. Here is your host, Tammy Stefano.
Hi folks, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. It feels so good to be back. Just to let you know, we have a new time, and we're so grateful for it. Lots of people have requested that we not do Friday nights and that we do the weekends because everybody's home and relaxed and able to tune in live. So it's probably going to take a couple of weeks, but we are expecting a great crowd, and we're really hoping to spread the awareness of the systemic failures that are failing children and placing children in great danger, and sometimes leading to death, unfortunately. We have a guest on this evening that experienced the most horrific systemic failures that a parent could possibly experience. And it happened right here in Los Angeles, California, through the Department of Children and Family Services. And what happened to him and his family is nothing short of terrorism, of the most horrific nightmare that anybody could ever imagine. And today, he doesn't have his family. So I want to welcome, if you can bring the microphone to your mouth, I want to thank you so much for being here tonight. I know that this is not easy for you, and I'm so glad that you've become proactive and not, as you say, you're not resting one moment. This is your world now because you want justice for not just your family, but for every child and family that is suffering the horrors of the lies and deceit and corruption and collusion just because they can. Please introduce yourself, Jason. Thank you for being here.
The pleasure is mine, Tammy. My name is Jason Vafai John Bahan Sr., the father of two children that have been a dependency of the foster care system, which DCFS services have escalated to just countless complaints with multiple agencies, and the complaints were never rectified by any of the agencies. And the majority of the complaints were pertaining to the welfare of my child's well-being, because one of my children is handicapped. He was born with a thyroid disease, and he was hypothyroidism and hypoglycemia, and he suffered from a sugar deficiency, which DCFS received a claim from a secretary that worked at my child's doctor's office in regards to 5 months medical neglect. After going to court with the machine that administrates the specific medication that's in question, which was a growth hormone, the machine clearly indicates the date and time the medication is administered. You can't falsify it.
No.
I mean,
we see this every day. We see this every day. It's just, it has to stop, folks. We're really hoping that this show, we are going to make go viral, because it's really important. It's really important. I want to take a moment, folks. Okay. All right. Can we take a 30-second break, please, John? We'll be back in one moment. Okay, thank you, folks. I want to jump right in to what happened with your family. Tell me about your family. Tell me, you're married. You were married.
Correct.
How you can pull that mic up. How you had 2 children. Tell me their names. Tell the audience their names.
Well, my first child was a boy. He was named after me. His name was Jason John Bahan Jr. And I have a daughter as well.
What is her name?
Her name is Sarah John Bahan.
How old? When was Jason born?
Jason was born on 6/23/2009.
And Sarah?
She was born on October 6, 2011. But speaking of when Jason was born, he was born in Tarzana, California, at Tarzana Hospital, where that day my child set a record inside Tarzana Hospital with countless glucose meters. When the nurse brought my child in to my wife, the first time we were visiting him after he was born, she noticed that he was discolored. So she removed him from the room and immediately rushed him up to the NICU of the hospital, where on the way up they were giving him CPR and basically resuscitating him because he was blue.
Yes.
He was lifeless. It was a very scary experience for me.
I can imagine.
To realize that I may lose my baby boy. This is my first child I've ever had, and it was a nightmare. In the NICU, they were able to resuscitate him. The glucose meter at that point in time read 1. In Tarzana Hospital, they thought their meters were broken, so they tried different meters, different brands. They all indicated the same reading, 1. They gave him, I believe, adrenaline and glucose to bring up his sugar levels. And they resuscitated him, thank God. He stayed in the NICU for over a month. And every day, me and my wife would monitor him and spend countless hours by his side.
Right.
And by the time he was discharged, because they were able to determine what his handicaps were,
Right.
they were able to give him the correct cocktail of medications to balance out his hormones and basically his growth, his sugar deficiency, his handicap in general. About a year or two after his birth, doctors suggested that he take Sizin, a growth hormone that's administered for his pituitary gland, because he was born with that thyroid disease, which gave him a deficient pituitary gland and hypothalamus. The medication was administered as prescribed.
Right.
And a pediatrician at one point in time indicated that he was 14 pounds over his weight and exceeding his height requirements as a little child. So we discontinued a growth hormone. That was it.
Okay.
Again, this machine indicates the date and time that it was discontinued, so on and so forth.
Right. It's
And
monitoring.
I mean, I would never medically neglect my child or put either one of my kids or anybody in my family in harm's way. To be accused of it is a complete shame.
And that's what
and-
you were. You were accused of such, correct?
Not only accused, but found guilty of medical neglect.
This is not.
I don't understand how, with zero proof, I can be found guilty of something, and for it to affect the well-being of my children and their future is unacceptable.
Yeah.
I mean, I filed countless complaints, all via email, so that I can have the proper
You have a paper
record
trail.
and authentication of the discrepancies and the services that are being rendered by the employees of DCFS. After receiving one response from the director himself, Philip Browning, after countless, and I'm not just talking like 3 or 4 or 5, I mean countless written complaints to countless agencies, Philip Browning himself, which his name is clearly on every court order, including this one that's dated 9/17/2015, Philip Browning, Director. Unfortunately, every single complaint that had gone to the director of this department was neglected. There was one response back in 2013 where Mr. Browning referred me as the father to Jeffrey Gibbs, a supervisor of one of the medical caseworkers that was attending to my handicapped child.
Jeffrey Gibbs?
He is one of the supervisors. Me and Mr. Gibbs had one conversation in
Okay.
the past 3 years.
When did your case begin? Tell the audience. Wasn't it?
I believe it was 2013.
Okay.
There was this is the second DCFS case referral
Okay.
that my family has dealt with.
Okay.
The first one was closed with the mother being granted full custody of both children,
Okay.
which is really disgusting, because I, as the father, did not want to do the parenting classes, the anger management, and basically whatever was specified on that first minute order. I extremely disagreed with the force that was being implied to my family and what they're trying to obligate me to do as a parent. When yet I've worked since I was 16 with a work permit. I provide for the community and the society. I don't walk around with a chip on my shoulder. And as far as a role model and an idol goes, I think I do a very good job for my children.
Yeah.
So this is not only upsetting, it's beyond offending. Then to come to find out, after I took it upon myself, one day I was reviewing the reports, and all of them clearly indicate the California Institutional WIC Code, which is basically what they were petitioning against me as a
Right.
father.
Right.
I mean, dealing with this for so long and staring at so many court reports that it became a second nature to me. And after discovering the law, the California Institutional WIC Code laws,
Welfare and Institution Code.
in which DCFS is trying to enforce upon parents,
Yes.
without zero authentication, they're able to sustain and find me guilty. But yet, in reality, after their removal and the services have been rendered, after I've conducted my research, I come to the conclusion and put together a 5-page report with both social workers violating 38 California laws, as well as countless penal codes.
Breaking the law.
Some of these laws under the penal code categorize under an R, which is just reference only. Some of these penal codes categorize under an F and an M for felony and misdemeanor. Now, when these county employees feel that their immunity is going to protect them, they're extremely wrong, because unprofessional conduct and poor services that are jeopardizing an innocent life, let alone that life being a child, will not be tolerated by any community, by any family, by anybody.
And it shouldn't be. And it shouldn't be.
And it won't be if there's a proper record of proof, and you can authenticate that what you're saying and what you're claiming is true versus what they're claiming, then you may be able to prove a point. Other than that, DCFS really targets
Anybody that they want.
That's true, but however, they're a real sophisticated business, and I don't really care what other people have to say. I look at it as a business,
Right.
and the services that are being rendered should leave you with a smile on your face, especially if you're dealing with your children, your family. I mean, I go to anybody's house and I'll look at a family photo on their wall. There's nothing more beautiful than that photo. There's nothing more valuable and more precious than the ones that you love and care for more than anything. And when you see these individuals being hurt, taken advantage of, or harmed in any way, it becomes an outrage, because it's continuing.
It doesn't stop.
Despite of warnings and discrepancy complaints, despite of agencies that claim that they rectify these discrepancies, there's poor authentication, because DCFS can turn around and respond to these agencies as, well, why? How can you continue a case for so long? Why is this father filing so many complaints that make a lot of sense? But yet when you respond to us, you're telling us that he was arrested for driving down the street. He was arrested for driving down the street under the influence of marijuana.
Were you ever arrested for driving down the street under the influence of marijuana?
Never in my life. I've never been arrested for a DUI in my existence. After this, they continue to claim, and of alcohol. He's arrested again, driving under the influence.
I've met you before. We've sat down. You don't drink. You don't drink. As a matter of fact, when I offered you a glass of wine or something, you said, "Oh no, I don't drink. So if I even had a half a glass, I would feel a little woozy."
Buzzed. I would be off of just a half a glass of wine.
You
I
don't
would be
drink.
buzzed. I mean, I drink once in an extreme blue moon, and that blue moon comes
Yeah.
in once in a great while.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
just really,
It's not your thing.
it's just no.
You've never been arrested for a DUI.
There's no urgency there as far as, I
Yeah.
mean, the hype and the effects of alcohol. I could drink water or soda and
feel
I'm
feel
cool.
wonderful.
You know what I
yeah.
mean? I have increased smoking cigarettes, unfortunately, tremendously after January of 2015.
Why is that?
After being contacted by the medical caseworker 3 days after my child was hospitalized, I go to the hospital to be kicked out of the hospital.
Well, wait a minute. Let's go back a little because the audience needs to understand. Your children got removed from your home. And you did as well, didn't you?
Yes, I was forced out of my home.
You were forced to leave your
Forced
home.
out of my home. If I did not leave my home, my kids would be removed
From your home.
and taken to a foster home.
So you left your home because your children are your life.
For the safety and the well-being of my children, not being in the hands of a complete stranger that me or anybody in my family have never met before.
Right.
That's just that's unheard of.
Yes.
I mean, I cannot even fathom, let alone imagine, thinking of going into your home and taking your children to a stranger's home.
It happens every day, though.
I would understand if the parents were not capable of providing financial, in a steady financial income and a healthy lifestyle for their family. I could understand these types of services being implemented and enhanced and enforced to these certain individuals that require this type of service.
That are in need of
And
it.
as
Yeah.
human beings, we're honored. We enjoy this.
Right.
We live for this. But when it's an unethical and unprofessional conduct that's pertaining an astronomical amount of counterfeited fraud that their department refuses to authenticate, I'm at a point where I've ordered 3 sets of custom handcuffs, 2 of them being Smith & Westerns, and the other being a very, very beautiful custom German pair, which I'm waiting to receive. And they're all laser engraved. Shame on you, DCFS, from Jason Jr.
I want to talk about Jason Jr. and why you ordered those handcuffs and what happened in January that you began to smoke. Tell us about that. You get a call.
I got a call.
Wait a minute. You moved out of your home because you were forced to. Did you ever hit your wife?
Never.
Never put your hands on your wife?
Never. A matter of fact, when there was a domestic violence dispute, which was just an argument, and the Los Angeles Police Department was contacted,
Okay.
as well as the fire department, both agencies being present in my home, my wife was detained and placed on a 5150 hold, and they left the children with me. The LAPD, field supervisors from LAPD, and the whole fire department themselves, every single officer that was out in the field made their best decision in regards to the well-being and safety of my children. If any of these officers had a discrepancy at any point in time with the safety and well-being of my children, I'm pretty sure DCFS would have received a referral.
Absolutely, but they didn't.
They didn't receive anything. What they did was they pulled the criminal report up from that date, which indicates no crime. Their DI, who had the criminal report in the courtroom, under oath, on the stand, clearly states, it's even on the transcripts, 0 proof of any crime or domestic violence while on the stand. And I'm still found guilty of domestic violence.
Through a children's court. Domestic violence, folks, is handled through criminal court, through DV court. It is not handled through children's court, but in your case, it was. And you were found guilty without ever having a trial, without ever having any evidence. They just decided that they just didn't like you. Do you feel like you were a target?
I know I was a target because day one I've complained on the social workers with agencies that do respond to the discrepancies, And these agencies, according to my knowledge, do their best to rectify them. And unfortunately, all it did was escalate the situation.
When you say escalate the situation, are you referring to the situation with DCFS,
Yes.
the social workers?
I'm referring to the case that they opened up on my family based on fictitious medical neglect and domestic violence with zero proof. My case went on for 3 years. Today's September 27th, 2015. Tomorrow, September 28th, is another one of my court dates. I've been to Monterey Park Children's Court in California about 50 times in the past 3 years. Does that make any sense to any parent out there that loves their child? Do you know what happened to me the last time I was in court? DCFS told the judge, there's proof, because I wasn't supposed to be visiting my children together with my wife while this case is opened, despite of us completing all of our classes.
You did everything that they told you to do.
Everything other than at the very end, our minute orders kept changing.
Okay.
And I keep changing my train of
Train of
thought.
thought, that's okay.
I apologize.
There's so much to your case.
It's ridiculous. Our minute orders kept changing at the very end. The medical caseworker that did not want to close this case kept demanding more different things.
Right.
And the judge would grant it for him. So it got to the point to where they wanted 5 more joint counseling classes between the mother and father. And after we completed 3 of them, we're 2 classes away from fulfilling the obligation that's on the minute order.
The previous minute order, and then they up the ante.
Well, no, we completed everything. All that's left are these 2 classes, and me and my wife separate. So I'm in the court with proof of a divorce in process. I'm not living with my wife. We're separated. And my kids are subjected to her neglect. So I'm in court, and I'm battling for my children, tooth and nail. And I lose tremendously based on lies. And not only am I hearing these lies being presented by county council, that there's no way on the face of this planet they can authenticate it because it's false.
They're lies.
Yeah.
They're just lying about you, and you don't know who they're talking about, but it's not you. No DUI, no driving while under the influence of marijuana, no domestic violence, no medical neglect, and yet you're reading this and it has your name on the top.
I never violated probation by carrying a firearm. I'd never been convicted 7 different times of a firearm. I've never been on parole in my life. I mean, the multiple formats of abuse and mental gymnastics coming from this horrible company that should leave you with a smile on their face. Unfortunately, I was left with the pride and joy of my existence dead. That's what I was left with.
Wait a minute.
I was left with burying my child after he was placed in poor care. And one of your questions was what took place in the hospital.
What took place in January? What made you start to smoke? You got a
Correct.
call? They removed your children.
Both children are separated into 2 foster homes. I get a call that one of them's been hospitalized in critical condition.
One of your children.
I go to the hospital with parental rights.
When was this?
This is in January of 2015. On January 13th,
How old was your son?
He was 5.5 years old. He showed up to the hospital with scabies, scabs. They were already scabs. No, by the time I saw him in the hospital, it was 3 days later. They were already scabbed up. So the hospital told me that they treated it. He shows up to the hospital with scabies from neck to toe. His torso, his arms, his thighs, his legs, down to his ankles, even on the top of his feet down to his toes, were riddled. Not just one, not just a few. He was riddled.
How long had it been since you saw your son?
Me and my wife separated towards towards the end of like November of 2014.
Do you think if DCFS wasn't involved in your life, that you and your wife would have separated?
I don't think so, because me being forced out of my home
Created all sorts of problems, yeah.
created.
I can imagine. Listen, it becomes a whirlwind. And then you get this call. Your wife gets the call. You're living separately. You arrive at the hospital. Your child has already been in the hospital, your child, for 3 days. And then they say, well, we better call this name.
I go to the hospital. I'm told, leave the hospital before we contact the police on you. And I was escorted out of the hospital by their security. When I have unmonitored visits on my case and all of the above, but now that my kids have become, now that they were removed from the mother, all of a sudden, all that goes away. Everything that I did for the department, all the classes, counseling, everything that I've complied and completed with,
It's gone.
it's all gone.
They don't
My
care.
child's in the hospital fighting for his life, and I had to wait in the parking lot for 2 or 3 days to be allowed up there.
And you waited.
I
You
waited.
waited.
I received a phone call on a Wednesday night, and I was told, this is your by the medical CSW, this is your opportunity to see your child in the hospital. He's been hospitalized, and you can see him tomorrow morning. This is your only opportunity on Thursday to see your child, because Friday I'm not working, and on the weekend I'm off, and on Monday it's Martin Luther King Day. We won't be around. So your child's been hospitalized in critical condition. If you'd like to see him, you have one opportunity, and that's it. Have a wonderful night, Mr. John Bahan. The guy calls me to wish me a wonderful night.
Oh, God, I'm so
I
sorry.
go to the hospital. I receive a phone call in the parking lot that my child has taken a turn for the worst. And he's not doing too good. His temperature reached 108.5.
108.5.
108.5.
Who brought him to the hospital?
Because he was born with a pre-developed hypothalamus. The foster mother brought him to the hospital because my child was in respiratory distress, having a 20-minute albuterol breathing treatment daily, and hydrocortisone stress doses, and other stress doses to help my child when he's in stress or in severe trouble. The foster mother was unaware of every single stress dose. The foster mother shows up to the emergency room, as indicated in the emergency room medical report that I didn't generate. When my son was discharged from the emergency room medical room, that medical report was generated by them. I didn't even show up until my child was in the PICU. After review, I went and received this medical report. And on the medical report, it clearly states the foster mother left my child in critical condition in the foster room, in the emergency room, and went home.
She dropped a 5-year-old off with 108 fever and left him.
No. He developed the fever inside the hospital, but bringing him to the emergency room,
She dropped him off.
He was in respiratory distress and required intubation inside the emergency room. After he was intubated, in the process of him either being transferred to CHLA or up to the PICU of Miller's Long Beach Children's Hospital, during that time, the foster mother went home. She just abandoned my child in critical condition without contacting me, without contacting anybody in my family, only the social worker who contacted me 3 days later. My child's condition worsened, and he was admitted to the PICU, where he was sedated, and he was medically induced into a coma to prevent further damage, I guess. I mean, the doctors there have an astronomical amount of more knowledge than I do. I'm nowhere near a doctor. I just have the medical training that was required for my child, and that's it.
You're a parent. You're a father. There's nobody better to know your child than you. There's nobody better.
Every single medical report and note from my child's attending doctors indicate that my child's well-being and medication and growth and thyroid levels are current, based on the father bringing him to all his doctor visits. DCFS has that letter in the courtroom.
Did they ever speak about that letter in the courtroom? Did you ever hear them talk about the positives?
My attorney brought it up. The only thing I heard from DCFS was, please, Your Honor, do not allow this dad around his child. That's all I would hear. That's all I would get is, Your Honor, he wants to see his child. If he does, Your Honor, we're gonna detain the child and place him in foster care. That's what we're asking right now.
Did they place him in foster care? Yes. Where?
My child was taken to a... My child suffers from a poor immune system, and it's clear as day. The CSW medical caseworker that had this case worked with my child and his current medical needs for going on 2 years, for him not to be aware of the substantial risk and harm that could be possibly presented to my child's health and safety, given his current medical condition, was all overlooked. My child was taken to a medical house in Compton, California, around 3 other children that are in that medical home. My child suffers from a very poor immune system. Showed up to the hospital in respiratory distress and scabies.
From the house that he was placed in.
Yes.
The stranger's house.
Absolutely. On January 5th, my child was taken to CHLA, Children's Hospital of Los Angeles. The medical record dated January 5th, 2015, clearly indicates the physical that my child received before he was forwarded from DCFS to the foster parent, which the maternal grandmother was there present during this. Medical record clearly indicates that my child was normal. On January 13th, 2015,
Look right in that camera when you
8
tell.
days later, he shows up in critical condition, fighting for his life.
At 5 years old. Without his dad.
Without nobody in his family. Nobody. How can a 5-year-old kid be left in the hospital with none of his family? It's beyond frustrating. It's beyond upsetting.
Of course it is.
This has made me change my life around to dissect the institutional WIC code and law and penal codes that these county workers are violating and committing felonies, criminal acts upon innocent little children that will not be tolerated by this community, by anybody. LAPD supervisors from divisions that are surrounding my city, DA's office, detectives. Detectives are not even allowed to investigate criminal activity from a social worker. Makes no sense to me at all. And it won't. If someone's breaking the law and harming our generation and our community, harming an innocent, let alone a little child, I don't stand for that at all. I can walk down the street right now, pick a street, and knock on any front door, and they're going to say the same thing.
Absolutely.
An innocent little kid with a smile on their face that just wants an ice cream or watch a cartoon or enjoy time and love with their family is being taken advantage of by an adult? Unacceptable. Especially if these adults are being caught in these ruthless acts of violence and harm that's being conducted to these people, to these normal human beings, these families that are rendering this unethical, poor service that is just beyond belief.
Where is Jason Jr.?
My child is buried next to my dad at Forest Lawn, Hollywood. And it hurts really, really bad. This is the worst thing that I could ever talk about or experience in life. And no matter what, I can't forget about it. It's something that I experienced. My child was my best buddy in this whole world. Other than my daughter, there's nobody on this earth that I love more than my favorite little buddy, my boy Jason. And he's gone forever. This is not just a 6-month case or an 18-month case that will close and eventually end with my child being at home with his family or coming back to his parents. This case is ended because my child has died. This is the only reason why the DCFS case closed for my son Jason is because he's dead. They find no reason to continue the case. I find no reason to let this go when adults take it upon themselves to violate countless laws and commit criminal acts to our society and our community. The correct actions of justice will take place, and these people will be regulated, and the laws will be enhanced, and these people will learn the hard way. When they think their county immunity is going to protect them, they're going to have to talk about that with some Southsiders in LA County Jail. That's if they make it to protective custody after being arrested. County council as well, given the opportunity to authenticate and do their job and carry it out efficiently. Given the opportunity that council has had countless opportunities to authenticate any discrepancy or fictitious information, it's a violation of penal codes, which are felony penal codes, to knowingly present fictitious information in a courtroom, knowingly, after having countless conversations with county council and giving them opportunities to authenticate. This grants them no immunity. This grants them termination of their position. This grants them
Jail
to be
time.
detained.
Jail time.
Okay? And you
They
know
have
what?
they are the criminals.
Let the world judge them. Things like this should not take place behind closed doors. Little children that get taken advantage
That's
of,
right.
that are harmed, none of this should be conducted behind closed doors. Everybody needs to see and understand what's taking place with little children,
Yes.
and all the adults should pitch in and do
Yes.
what's right and what's fair for the next generation in your community. As an adult, you should do what's honest and what's correct. For you to take advantage of any situation, let alone your job description, is unacceptable. And I've made a new life goal to filter these bad social workers through DCFS. They've attacked me countlessly, contacting police departments, trying to have me arrested with fictitious information while I'm on felony probation.
And never one time do they have any evidence. Nothing.
As stated by their own investigators, while under oath, under penalty and perjury, zero proof.
They killed your son. They took your son. They separated your family. Tomorrow, you have a court hearing, don't you?
I do.
Where's your daughter right now? Have you seen her?
Tammy, if I was to call my daughter right now, I would be violating a restraining order that DCFS gave the maternal grandmother, despite of her never being threatened or harmed in any way. It's granted, and I cannot call my daughter or I'll be arrested. Right now, if I dialed the maternal grandmother's phone number and asked for my daughter, Sarah, it's 8 o'clock. Sweetheart, what did you have for dinner? How are you doing? Anything. What did you do today? Did you paint anything? Did you color? Did you draw something? You having fun with grandma? That's illegal through DCFS's eyes. That's a violation of being a parent through DCFS eyes. Does that make sense to any normal human being? I bring that question up again. I can walk down the street and knock on any door, and everybody's going to agree with me that this is such an unethical, unprofessional service that should not be tolerated in any shape or form.
Shouldn't exist, folks. We've heard
It
it
should
time
not
and-
exist at all.
Time and time again. This case is just, it is horrendous. This dad has lost his son. There's not been one shred of evidence. As a matter of fact, we will be posting some videos that I watched today that literally had me just in I'm just in tears. It's just been really, this is the hardest story.
Tammy, I just want to clarify one thing. The Department of Children and Family Services is an agency that believes and stands for a service that is priceless. that the community, some people in the community really need. I support that. I support if their family needs help, to help them. I don't support criminal acts of violence, harm,
Murder.
leading to murder, leading to harm, and leading to the well-being and health of the future of an innocent person. I mean, there's nobody to vouch or stand up for kids. They can't speak for themselves.
That's right.
Adults can defend themselves. If DCFS social worker had a problem with a 25-year-old guy, pretty sure they could take care of it on their own. Now, if this 5-year-old child has a problem with the social worker and the services that are being rendered, who's to help them when the parents are completely out of the picture? The parents have no say-so with their own children, the well-being of their own children. These people, the parents comply. Obviously, if the parents are standing there, they didn't violate any laws, otherwise they'd be in jail. And then, yeah, DCFS would really need to help these kids, find family members, and conduct a service that is priceless. And everybody agrees that help should be there. But now when you got both parents standing there, and they're wondering where their kids are at, and they haven't broken any laws, and DCFS is accusing them of breaking laws and at the same time detaining their children.
Laws that they have no part of ever doing. No part of it.
It's really ridiculous because I always thought you weren't guilty until proven guilty. Well, in this situation with your children, DCFS will come into your home
Yes.
and remove your children
Yes.
despite of you not being found guilty.
Yes.
You never will be found guilty. You never even committed a crime. Otherwise, the real law would be knocking on your door and they'd pull out handcuffs and they'd take you to jail if you broke the law. I mean, if you're caught driving drunk down the street right now, citizens of the community would detain you. I mean, any law. You get caught stealing anything, you're going to go to jail.
That's right.
It gives no other human being an excuse to get away with it. Social workers have no excuse. They're an adult. They're just like anybody else. It's not a computer that's malfunctioning. This is a human being that has feelings that, based on their experience with certain individuals, this adult may be upset or get offended or have mixed feelings about how their input or outlook is. And that is just truly incorrect when dealing with families and their well-being. Because now your family's future is predicted by this individual that may have mixed feelings or may just truly hate your guts with a passion, and there's nothing you as a parent can do about it because he has your case. Now he's not going to look at you and say, "Hey, I hate your guts.
Right.
I'm gonna do whatever I can do to watch
make
you
your life
miserable. I want to see you suffer." In other words,
Do you feel like they wanted to see you suffer?
absolutely.
Do you think it was because you stood up and disagreed with them?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Do you think that exercising your First Amendment right to speak up, to protect yourself, to disagree with something, especially something that you know is definitely not you, such as these allegations that are so far-fetched from your character, all of that, but yet they did it, and every time that you spoke up, you felt like you got persecuted more and more.
Every time I spoke up, it went in one ear and out the other.
With more of a vengeance,
It got
though.
to a point to where every agency that you could possibly fathom, think of it, name it off. You're sitting here watching this, name an agency. They were contacted in regards to this discrepancy.
You were so concerned. You wanted your son back. You didn't know where he was. He was placed in a very, very poor part of town. He got scabies. You didn't know what was happening.
Well, leading up to the removal, these discrepancies took place, and dealing with DCFS, and during the removal, I didn't know what was taking place when my child was removed, and that's why I generated that 5-page report indicating when and where the 2 social workers that were working my case violated countless institutional WIC codes and laws. And a lot of these laws, also a few penal codes that I looked up. I should have brought my penal code book in with me. It's an updated version for 2015. And the law's the law.
But not when it comes to DCFS.
Oh, when it comes to the well-being of your children, it is so complicated to protect your own family
Yes.
when they come to you.
Yes.
I mean, your next door neighbor can hate the way that you mow your lawn because you're up at 8 in the morning and the guy wants to sleep till 9. And the guy gets pissed off and calls DCFS or CPS on you and your family.
Your child could end up dead.
This is just a hypothetical situation that DCFS deals with constantly because people get upset at each other.
And they have found a way to really get at somebody.
Yeah, say the social worker knocked on that parent's door and the parent looked at the social worker and just completely disagreed with the referral in general and was looking at the social worker like, man, look at the way I live and look at how I perform and operate. My children are healthy, happy.
You're a businessman, right?
I am. I've owned my business since 2006.
Since 2006, you've worked, you told me, since you were
I worked since I was 16 with a work permit.
16 years old. You have provided for your family. Did you collect welfare?
Prior from having a family, I provided for my community and the society by paying a lot in taxes, being a single young man, making good money, and being at an age to where I just get taxed. So, I mean, I'm providing. If I was to, I started working when I was 16. When I was 21, if I was to pass away, I worked for 5 years and provided for my community and the society. I pitched in for the next generation. The amenities that you get to enjoy, the technology that you utilize are from hardworking, tax-paying citizens. You got to give them credit.
Yes.
I mean, everything that you enjoy is because of the past. And we're here now enjoying all of these amenities and this lifestyle.
I want you to look over there because the people need to feel you and see you and know you're a real person. This really happened. You're a business owner. Your children were kidnapped from you. And we can't say legally kidnapped because by any premise that they have made any allegation, it was illegal. It was lies. It was deceit. It was altered documents. It was falsified information. It was fraudulent information. And your name was at the top, and it wasn't you. And it cost you your family. It cost your son his life. John, I
Correct.
emailed you a picture of Jason Jr. when Dad went to the hospital when he was called and given this very small window to see his child that he raised, that he supported, that he cared for, that he fought for from the time that this child was born, and that he and his wife made sure that he had the right medication and that everything was balanced because he loved his son. And at the end of the day, here's what he walked into, folks. And John will show it in a moment. Folks, there is I need for you all, knowing we've all heard about the system, we've heard the horror stories, we hear the cries of the parents fighting for their children. This dad was stripped of his rights. Tomorrow morning, Monday, September 28th, he is going to Edelman Courthouse in Monterey Park, California, because the department, afraid because of the death that they have caused, is now trying to strip him of his parental rights with his only living child. He's lost everything. Your wife isn't really fighting anymore, right? Listen, this death could cause anybody to just fall apart, folks, to fall apart. And Dad's fighting right now. They're trying to take his rights away, so he won't have any legal right to write any more letters, to complain, to speak and be the voice for his daughter, his only living child that's left here, that the department still has their clutches on.
who cries and begs to come home with me. Cries and begs. I have my brother's contact to check on her because I'm not allowed to call.
Look right over here.
And I
Jason.
overhear the conversations because I want to hear how my daughter's doing. And she begs to talk with me, and I can't get on the phone. Otherwise, I'd be violating a restraining order and be subjected to jail time. I filed 2 JV 180s already to this court, to my department. Same department that removed my child. It's very interesting how the department gets their principal county counsel to come into the courtroom and present countless lies, and the judge accepted them. I have so much trouble understanding the services that are being rendered in these departments. From day one, I filed bar complaints, the Commission on Judicial Performance complaints, you name it, Attorney General, Bureau of Children Justice, Department of Ombudsman. The list just goes on. Trust me. Think of an agency.
And you have.
They've heard about it.
Yes.
Because this should not be tolerated.
No.
Now, since day one of this case, DCFS has responded to these agencies with fictitious information, and these agencies would not pursue my claims.
They never checked. Had they checked, folks, they would have seen that this was fraudulent information that was being presented in order to make Dad appear as though he was a criminal, that he was a violent man, that he posed a safety risk, when in fact there was no evidence. I want to show a picture of...
If my children were hurt in any way, given the fact that me and my wife separated and we had a dispute because she was having an affair, I'm pretty sure she would have. My wife contacted PD on me, and again, when they came, they left me with the children. If there was any type of physical abuse to my children in any way, sexually, anything, I'm pretty sure my wife would call the cops,
Right.
and it would be reported.
Yes.
Or my kids would talk about it. My kids were very smart. My boy was so smart, he would get compliments everywhere he went. He was such a happy kid that I, as a dad, could not ask for anything else in this world other than my 2 kids. Now into this day, this very day, I still say the same thing. DCFS fails to authenticate and is committing criminal acts of fraud and harm. DCFS has violated countless penal codes, WIC codes, with unethical and unprofessional conduct. I'm told, no new evidence. Get out of my courtroom.
We want to know.
Interesting.
We want to know what attorneys will be at Edelman Courthouse tomorrow. This is a nightmare. This could happen to anybody. This man was a normal human being, a father, a good dad. Ever hit your kids? Ever beat
Not
them?
once. Never.
I saw videos. No allegations on the petitions that you beat your child.
Never.
Never.
We're being accused of medically neglecting my child for 5 months. Now until this day,
Fix it the way you want.
September of 2015, they put in the same allegations of 5 months medical neglect is still being presented to the courtroom.
But you have all of your multitude of hospital records. You could cite...
Excuse me.
Sure, you could cite every little thing that's been wrong with your son and what medication he was on and how the medication worked with him and what you recommended, and you were back and forth, and you always were at the doctor's with your son, and he was stabilized, and he was fine, and he was happy, and he was laughing.
All letters from my handicapped child's attending doctors, all letters indicate that the father takes baby Jason to all of his visits and is current. All letters were positive based on the well-being and the health situation of my child. The Department of Children and Family Services disagrees in regards to the well-being of my pride and joy, and takes him and places him in such poor care that the medical record indicates this verbatim: foster mother lacks critical information on patient's medical history. Child has been placed in poor care. Foster mother left child in critical condition and went home.
Left him at the hospital, folks.
Who is going to
5 years old.
take their child in critical condition to a hospital and go to the emergency room and then go home while your child's there in critical condition? This makes zero sense to me. This makes zero sense to the community, to all the normal, hardworking people in this world that provide to our society. That makes no sense to us. DCFS is out of control. Some of the social workers that are in there need to be regulated. I've noticed some of the social workers that do not want to participate or have anything to do with this find themselves on this case, and within a day or two, they're gone. Their names pop up on one piece of paper, and then they're gone, and they're never heard of ever again.
How many social workers would you say that have been on your case in this last 3 years?
I've lost count.
If we had to guesstimate, I mean, hypothetically, 10,
The people dealing...
20, more than 20, more than 30?
Wow, seeing a photo of my child in the hospital is just unbelievable, man.
Folks, this photo is how he found his son. I want to know what adult is going to step up and stop this.
That photo was... When I found him, he didn't have the trach in his throat yet. He was intubated with a tube going down his throat. That photo that you just saw was with the trach. He
John,
was riddled.
show that photo one more time, please, because
That's a very tough photo, but
I'm
it's the
sorry.
truth, man.
I'm sorry.
At that point in time, my child was already brain dead, and he was in a permanent vegetative state. And he couldn't talk. He couldn't move a finger. He couldn't do nothing. And after sending so many complaints to the Board of Supervisors, to different agencies in regards to my son being hypoglycemic and not getting any glucose to his brain, these complaints were neglected all through 2013. All through 2014, every single complaint in regards to medical and the lies jeopardizing the lives of my two children. Every single complaint indicates this discrepancy, and the department refuses to rectify or authenticate the medical neglect claims and pursues this claim until my child's illegally removed behind my back with none of my family members being contacted. Every single one of my family members provided a letter to the court indicating that they were not contacted for care of the child, safety, placement, the well-being, all of the above. None of my family members' houses were inspected for clean living or anything. None of them.
Did you ask for any of their houses to be inspected?
I was contacted when I left a courtroom one day. I want to say the social worker's name so bad.
Say it. I want to say it.
Her name is Siobhan Winters.
Siobhan Winters, shame on you.
I'm contacted.
You are disgusting.
I'm contacted by Siobhan Winters, who contacts me right after I leave the courtroom and tells me that the judge just issued a warrant for your children. And I tell her, I just left the courtroom and the judge never said anything about removal. You're going to have to speak to the judge the next time you go to court. That's like 30 or 90 days from now. I'm sorry, Mr. John Bahan. I would have never have removed your kids from you. Well, Miss Winters, who from your department requested this removal? The judge. No, from your department, Miss Winters, who requested this removal?
Right.
The judge. I believed her up until the day I went to the clerk's office in Monterey Park to withdraw information for a lawyer that was reviewing my case. And I saw the order of removal with Siobhan Winters' name right on it. I saw the order of removal with countless lies coming from Siobhan Winters, who spoke to me as the parent and lied to me, lied to my face in regards to the removal, lied to my face in regards to a lot of things. But I must say, out of both social workers In November, when I broke up with my wife, December was really tough for me and my family. I did everything in my power to get baby Jason his Guitar Heroes that he wanted and my children their toys. And Siobhan Winters did bring a bag of Christmas toys to my children, which I remember in Christmas. That meant a lot to me and my family. I mean, despite of the bad things I have to say about her, she did do good things. The main discrepancy that lies is with Bill Thomas, the medical caseworker on my case. Someone like Siobhan came in new. She came in out of left field. She wasn't aware of the amount of discrepancy complaints, the amount of process that this case has already gone through prior from her being appointed to it. I've met and dealt with her a few times, and I mean, I really had nothing bad to say about her up until after the removal when I found out the truth. Once I found out the truth, the social worker, I called her up and had a nerve. I freaked out. I called them up and called them on their lies.
Good for
Was
you.
screaming to the top of my lungs
Good
because
for
I was
you.
taken advantage of. I was lied directly to my face and disrespected above and beyond my expectations. I was expecting them to help my family, and in return, I was taken advantage of in such a disgusting way that I was furious.
I don't blame you.
Furious.
Who wouldn't be?
Without threatening great bodily harm to these social workers. Just basically cursing at them, which I have the right to curse at them. It's freedom of speech out here. I get 6 restraining orders in court from the social workers that are now in fear of their lives.
Because you called.
And told them to F off. Told them that your services, your lies should not be tolerated. I'm filing a complaint based on the services that have been rendered. Your lies, they're unacceptable. I went off. I mean, I didn't threaten.
You didn't go off. You spoke up for yourself. And if you raised your voice, well, heck, you had a right to do so. Your family was being torn apart.
At that point in time, it was already torn apart and the damage was already done. This is already after the fact that I'm in the parking lot of the hospital. My son's upstairs brain dead, and I'm reviewing all this information that was turned in. And it just, it spiraled me mentally. Just irate. I call, man. Basically, the 6 restraining orders were generated.
6 restraining orders.
6 restraining orders.
Wait a minute. Within children's court or?
Within children's court. The first one was for my baby boy who was in the hospital, brain dead.
Any restraining orders against you from civil, criminal court? Or
No.
was it, they were all children's court?
Yes. By all means, if I broke the law, please contact LAPD to take me away. I mean, the Twin Towers would gladly accept me if I was breaking the law. They'd gladly accept you. Anybody.
Yeah.
Walk outside, go break the law. I guarantee you'll be in jail shortly. Social workers feel that I'm wrong and that they can break the law. And they're probably going to watch this and they're laughing. The only problem that lies is that the social workers will not study county immunity until after they've been arrested. So I hope they keep laughing because their unprofessional conduct, their terrorism, the harm that exists or will exist will be regulated. This illegal acts, these criminal acts of torture and harm to the future, let alone to a baby, let alone to an innocent child, will not be tolerated. Trust me, a lot of LAPD field supervisors that are surrounding your department agree with me. A lot of DAs, the whole community, the whole world agrees with me that when DCFS social workers are caught breaking countless laws, they're going to be arrested. They're going to go to jail. They're never going to be around children or families ever again.
Have you contacted the Attorney General, Kamala Harris?
Countless times. Guess how many responses I've got back from the Bureau of Children's Justice?
How many?
Let me repeat that again. Bureau of Children's Justice. Guess how many responses I've got? Because I filed countless discrepancies. You want to know how many?
Yes.
0.
0 responses. Your son was laid to rest at 5 years old. You showed the lies, and they didn't have the decency to respond to you.
I've not only showed the lies, I've given them countless opportunities to authenticate that. This is going to sound very ironic for a lot of people that are watching this or listening to this. My JV 180 that is going to be presented to the courtroom tomorrow is asking the judge to allow me to detain child's counsel. What? That's going to be their response. Well, if you look at the countless opportunities, which if you look, there's been over a dozen in 36 months, their department has had to authenticate the claims that they're presenting to this courtroom. The father has addressed these discrepancies to counsel's department, giving them an opportunity to authenticate and do what's in the best interest of Jason Jr., being that he's over 4 years old, and that he was never interviewed by child's counsel. His wishes were overlooked by child's counsel.
Who was child's counsel?
Good question, because it constantly changed. My child has had about a dozen different counsels. 2 different principal county counsels, Michelle Eisner and Kim Nimoy.
Kim Nimoy, Michelle Eisner, we know them well because they're on most of these cases.
Why does the department need their principal county counsel to come and represent this case? Does that make sense to anybody? I don't understand. What happened? Is there something wrong?
Well, Dr. Susan's case has them. Amy's case has them. As a matter of fact, most of the parents from Los Angeles County that I have had on my show, based on the egregious situation that they have been faced with, have had at least one of these 2 players, and I say players because it's a game, inserted in their case.
Yeah, these are principal counsels, so I mean they get the wrath of the dragon. They get to see these hardcore cases that have been continuing for long amounts of time. They send in their closers.
Yeah.
They send in their top guns to make sure that their job gets done, because this top gun has the most experience when dealing and ripping families off in the courtroom. So you know what? We really need to rip you off. We need to send in our top guns. How is this in the best interest of my handicapped child or my daughter? It's not. It's just a full-blown war attacking the parent and jeopardizing the future and well-being of my kids, when yet counsel refuses to authenticate and do their job correctly. That's why in my petition I'm asking for the bailiff's handcuffs, and I'm asking permission for the judge to allow me to detain counsel, because of the penal codes that they're violating are actually felonies. County immunity? Look it up. Dissect it. It's not granted when it's unprofessional and unethical conduct that's causing harm.
That's right.
Yeah, no one's going to help you. Who are you going to ask for help? No one's going to want to help you when you're proven to be guilty of such neglect and such criminal acts of harm to little children. No one's going to help you. Your whole job, your career, everything that you worked hard for is going to go bye-bye, including you. Okay? And I hope it's me that gets you busted, period. I am coming for the bad social workers at DCFS. I'm coming for you, period.
How many attorneys have you been given? You have an attorney right now on your case, but that attorney is not from Los Angeles County, I noticed. That attorney is actually from Lancaster. Did you know that? Did you know that?
Wow.
Yeah. Folks, today I had an opportunity to look at some paperwork. You didn't know that. So I got on the phone, actually, folks. So be prepared for the social workers and the county council that do watch my show, and I know because I know that my name and my show is circulated quite often around the courthouse. Be prepared, because I'm very curious why a Lancaster appointed counsel has made his way over to an area, a jurisdiction that he has no business being in, because there's more than enough. So what is really going on? What is going on? You're sending an appointed counsel from Lancaster Is that good? Is that bad? Has your appointed counsel helped you in any way? Has he returned phone calls? Has he spoken with you? Has he given you his condolences for the son?
He has.
He has. Your appointed counsel?
My appointed counsel, from day one, I filed complaints on the original appointed counsel because of the lack of service that was being offered and the lack of authentication when going to court. Like I said, I've been to court like 50 times. I mean, as a parent, you eventually, you keep showing up there. You're like, I can't take this no more. This is ridiculous. I miss work. The gas and parking, just everything in general is so counterproductive for me as a parent to deal with that it just makes me sick. But I kept going. And
Jason, let me ask you something. Do you feel suicidal?
no.
Would you
When
ever-
my child,
Would you ever take your life? Because right now, I want to make sure that your life isn't taken to look like something, because the fact of the matter is we know that this entity, there's some danger. And some people, it is alleged that some people's lives have been put in danger. So would you take your life, or is your life, as you've told me on several times that we've spoken and met, that it is your life's mission to make sure that children have a voice? This isn't a weak man, folks. So look at him now. He's healthy.
I won't stop.
He doesn't drink.
I
He's
won't
not going to be
stop.
caught drunk driving. He doesn't do
As
drugs.
claimed.
Okay? If anything happens to this gentleman, this father, this proactive, involved parent, as a result of being on this show, folks, you can rest assured that there was suspicious activity that led to something.
Well, it's tough. I mean, you got Governor Jerry Brown, who put Julie Blackshaw in Department 412, who's my new judge, when Mark Bernstein was the old judge, and he looked at county council and said, look, you guys have incriminated yourself so much on this case pertaining to this handicapped child. I'm going to kick you out of my courtroom if you say another word. Granted reunification at that point in time, just to put a smile on their face after he got done telling counsel off. I come back 6 months later to a new judge. Children's Counsel presents the same lies that got them in trouble the last time we were in that courtroom. The new judge accepted all these lies. The new judge was most likely just like Siobhan, unaware of the amount of complaints that exist pertaining to this particular case. And she continues it. Months later, my child's removed, and he ends up dead. Governor Jerry Brown puts Julie Blackshaw in office, giving her $180,000 a year. Why would this woman not want to work on the best interest of the child's well-being? She makes good money. She lives a good life. I don't understand. Well, when you have principal counsel in that courtroom 24/7, one of them may be from Lancaster, but the others aren't. I've been to court so many times. I've waited there till 5 o'clock almost every time. It's interesting how there's about 10 minutes or 15, 20 minutes in between each case where they're all in there talking. It's interesting how they're co-workers that see each other on a daily basis. And for the 5 or 10 minutes that I get when I walk in there, I'm not going to be treated like her co-workers. Despite of me dealing with my children and their services, I'm not going to get the same treatment as her coworker.
Because you're treated as a criminal.
Yeah, I'm treated as a degenerate menace to society that medically neglects his child and drives down the street smoking marijuana, endangering the lives of innocent people. And then he didn't learn after being arrested for DUI smoking marijuana and started driving down the street again, driving with alcohol this time. Then he was arrested. Then he violated probation while carrying a gun. And then he's on parole. I mean, the amount of lies that are being presented to a courtroom. And then when we come back to court, every time I leave a courtroom, I listen to counsel. I file complaints on what they're presenting because it should be on the transcripts.
That's right. Do they allow you? They don't allow you to talk.
Never.
Do you tell your counsel, that's it, I am speaking?
I've gotten to the point where I kept telling my counsel, object. this is all false. Object. I'm like freaking out in my seat.
See, the problem
freaking
is,
out.
folks, I'm going to tell you right now, here's how it goes in a courtroom. If you don't object and your counsel doesn't object, when it comes time to appeal, guess what? You can't. Unless that word object was stated, you can't appeal it. Folks,
I don't mean to interrupt you, but that's unethical practice inside that courtroom.
Absolutely.
Because if you're dealing with a family that's being appointed an attorney, and this attorney is on the court side, the family doesn't stand a chance.
Not a chance. And that's why they don't stand a chance.
This
And that's why
court-appointed
children are
attorney
taken
is
all
not
the
going to
time.
say, I object, Your Honor.
That's right.
He's going to allow this family to be taken advantage of. And now, by the time this family realizes
what's
that
happening,
we've been harmed, oh my God, we need to file an appeal. Yeah. Well, you can't because you never objected to none of this.
Yes.
So now this is where they're rendering an unprofessional service that's jeopardizing their future. And that's just one point out of countless points that I could make in regards to this department and their unethical conduct.
Folks, how many good citizens, concerned parents, you don't have to be a parent. You need to be a human being with blood running through your veins. A child died. You saw the picture. John, please, one more time, because please, folks, we are in desperation right now. These parents, they really don't have anywhere to go. They don't have any justice. They are being given restraining orders even though they don't do anything wrong, and lies are being put on a piece of paper that have nothing to do with them, never a part of their lives, and it is being considered truth, factual, and they are convicted, more or less, because they're convicted by losing their family, their homes, their lives as they know it, their lives and their peace and their quality of life is gone because somebody decided to put on a piece of paper some words that had nothing to do with them and submit it in a court of law, in children's court. And it cost this man his family. It cost his child his life. He suffered. He had tubes in him. He didn't see Dad. He saw a stranger who brought him to a hospital and left the 5-year-old there. Now, folks, think about that. We've got somebody who is approved, who is considered safe by the Los Angeles Department of Children and Family Services, but that person who's considered safe, who takes in children, other people's children, who have to trust that their child is being treated properly in a safe home because it's been approved by the department. That approved foster parent, in fact, looked at this kid and said, he's not mine. I'm out of here. And the child was left alone. A little 5-year-old son, Jason's 5-year-old son, folks, he was left alone.
It could have been anybody's kid.
It could be.
Could have been anybody's
it
kid.
will be. Not it could be. It could have been. It has been. And it will be unless we stop it. Folks, this is not for the bad parents. Yes, there are parents that need help. Yes, there's parents that abuse children. Yes, these children need help. But the multitude of cases that I get, that I see, Dr. Susan, Jason, Lisa, Amy, the multitude of parents, all we see is lies.
The acts that you're referring to should not be tolerated. This is going to sound crazy, but I support the Department of Children and Family Services as far as good services to families that really need it. I would help a family for free. I wouldn't even have to be paid. I would help if I could. To the best of my knowledge, honestly and fairly. I mean, for the cases that you're mentioning, that's why I come here today, so that people can not only hear my story, but other stories from other individuals that are telling you the truth. And as adults, we need to do something about it.
That's right.
When you say it needs to go away, we're talking about criminals.
Yes.
I mean, do you want somebody selling drugs out of your front yard? The person doesn't even live with you. You don't even know who he is. It's a criminal in your front yard selling crack and heroin. Do you want him in your front yard? No. Same concept when dealing with another criminal. Now, if social workers are going to commit felonies, they're going to accuse a parent of violating a penal code, which would categorize under R, reference only. But yet their services and their conduct that's recorded and on file violates penal codes that reference F or M, felony or misdemeanor. Let's talk about who really bumped their head and who is the idiot dealing with that situation. Is it the parent or is it the social worker?
Right.
Well, let's ask that question again. Did the parent commit any misdemeanors or felonies, or did the social worker? The social worker. So, who's the idiot?
Who's the criminal?
I'll let you answer that question while you're watching this. I already know the answer. They're all worthless punks. The ones that want to break the law and harm innocent little children will be regulated on. They think and feel that because all the years that have gone by with their training and services that they've already offered, they've been getting away with it. They feel that they can continue to get away with it.
And they have. They have gotten away with murder. In 2013, just in Los Angeles County, a report was released, a confidential report that would have never been released because they weren't being transparent, folks. Make no mistake. 570 children who were taken away from good parents. We'd have to assume, well, let me retract that. 570 children that were taken away from biological parents were placed in the system and killed.
Last year?
In a year and a half's time, just in Los Angeles County.
How many?
570 children.
Man.
570 children, folks. If you don't believe me, go on the February 13th, 2013 Los Angeles Times front page, read DCFS report. It's 82 pages, and guess who it comes from? A whistleblower county council. Somebody who said, I can't do this anymore. I can't back this anymore. I don't want to be a participant in murdering innocent children anymore.
An adult that's doing what's right. I could understand if it was like a 12-year-old doing these acts. I mean, they got a little bit of ways to go to understand. We're dealing with people that are educated with degrees. People that go home to beautiful lifestyles. They really bumped their head. Trust me. When they're greeted inside of jail, or when they realize that they've lost everything because now they've been caught, at that point in time they are going to look and realize, I am an idiot. Yeah, I myself had to learn
a criminal.
when I was a young guy.
Yeah.
I had to go to juvenile hall. I had to get in trouble, and I had to learn.
Folks, tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., we urge you, we beg you, for the sake of little Jason Jr. I sent you another picture, John, a beautiful photo. I have so many. Folks, tonight, I don't care what time I stay up until, I am posting all of the photos of little Jason Jr. We are dedicating this show I'm asking everybody tomorrow to be at 201 Center Plaza Drive, Ed Edelman Courthouse. This victim, and make no mistake when I say the word victim, as I'm not making a mistake, who has been robbed, whose family has been murdered, who is still in the throes of hell, and they are trying to remove the last piece of his heart so that he can't go after them for all of their multitude of wrongdoing. I am begging. Folks, get this word out tonight. I'm going to post this show, John. I'm asking you to send it to me right afterwards. We're going viral tonight. I don't care. I don't need to sleep. And I ask everybody, once we go viral, send it to everybody. This is a victim and it happens every day.
And it should not. It needs to be prevented.
It needs to be stopped.
The adults that are listening to this should help these children. I mean, how can you stand here and listen to this and not want to pitch in any type of advice or help to innocent little kids? I mean, if you can, it would be honored. It would be appreciated by many normal human beings that what you're doing is correct and what you're doing is right. I mean, to do something that's not right and not correct, I don't understand. I mean, I have trouble understanding this, especially when it's pertaining kids. It really extremely gets me upset to the point to where I cannot tolerate it. I've literally started studying penal codes and going crazy, staying up till 2 a.m. sometimes, studying the laws and what's taking place. And I'm getting closer and closer to lining them all up out front of their office and handcuffing them and have multiple black and white units transport them to county jail. Because when their counsel does not want to step foot outside and authenticate the laws being broken, because then they'd most likely be participating with it and they'd end up in cuffs too. They're leaving their social workers in the red. They're leaving their social workers committing these criminal acts left behind for justice. So,
folks,
it's not going to get good for them.
No, it is
Things
not.
need to change on their end.
This department is not working anymore, folks. We have Dr. Susan, who has found a multitude of lies. She was accused of armed robbery. She's a doctor in Beverly Hills, but you look in her file, and all of a sudden you see this armed robber. An armed robber. This is happening. Folks, listen. Number one, you want to object? Your appointed counsel's not objecting? You object. Get it on the record. Your counsel says, hey, don't do that. Listen, this is my child.
Any information that you hear on this show that you feel that's positive or going to benefit you in any way, please utilize it to your advantage to help your family. Yes. There's nothing more important than who you love and who you care for, and you need to stand up for them no matter what the situation is. Don't let who you love and who you stand up for get taken advantage of. You don't stand for that because you love them and you care for them so much. That's why you're at court. That's why you're at where you're at. That's why you're doing what you're doing, to cater to that person's needs that you love so much. Don't ever allow anybody to take advantage of them. Do your best to always be there for them.
Yes.
To my dying day, I will be here for my little girl, Sarah, no matter what. No matter what. DCFS, I've told them this countless times. Unfortunately, they're idiots, some of them. Nothing can stand in front of a real parent. You understand that? A real dad. Nothing can stop him.
That's right.
Nothing.
That's right.
Unfortunately, DCFS employees have spiraled my case so out of control, utilizing their tactics, their connections, and it's cost me the pride and joy of my life. The evidence is substantial. There's no doubt about that DCFS cannot authenticate their claims, but yet for so many years they got away with doing so. Now it's time for justice to come and bite them back where they deserve to feel the pain. And that's with their lifestyle and their career. The same concept, the same damage that you're committing to your community and to innocent families will turn right back upon the ones that are doing it. Mark my words.
Folks, I wish that we didn't have to end this show because, listen, there is so much to this case. There's so much to this case.
I've probably given you maybe 20%
Yes.
of what I have on my mind.
We need
It's
to-
so overwhelming. I cannot. I'll leave here and I'll start thinking of
Yeah.
different things, situations, other stuff. I just hope that anybody that does find this show online utilizes it to their advantage to benefit their family's well-being and future. That's all.
That's right.
I came here today for that reason mainly, is to provide information to the community in the world and to also protect my daughter mainly as well. But also other children that are out there, the next generation. Remember, everything that we enjoy is because of the children that we're taking
That's
care of in the
right.
past. These children have grown up to give us the amenities that we enjoy. Everything that we enjoy, where you go to eat, where you go to learn, where you go to for entertainment, anything, all of the above. It's because people were very considerate for the next generation. And people should continue to do that. Continue being considerate for the next generation. We're all going to go at one point in time, and what we do and what we leave behind is going to really count the most.
Let me ask you something. Do you think that if DCFS continues in the way that they have, that this generation is safe?
Far from it.
Far from it.
It's a modern day, and I really, honestly don't like saying this.
Say it.
It's a modern day gas chamber. I hate that terminology. My grandpa was a victim of the Holocaust on my mom's side. To even think or to compare a service to that type of nature is really disturbing. It's sickening to even think of that, but that's how I feel. It's a modern day chamber that sabotages and tortures families. Who the hell wants their family to be tortured or suffer? I don't understand this. And for 3 years I've tried understanding it, and now that I do understand it, I'm pissed. I'm ready to arrest. I'm ready to drag people out of their cubicle in handcuffs straight to the back of a police car. And I think at that point in time, they're going to realize and value what they had in life. And luckily, by the luck of God, they might just end up out on bail or end up free by getting away with such criminal acts. And maybe they won't do it again. But I guarantee you, if they're arrested, they will learn. They will learn not to do it again. That's why I'm implementing social workers who are caught with felony acts of harm and fraud. You cannot forge any type of information. If you can't do your job and carry it out efficiently and authenticate the claims with the truth, then it's pointless to employ you as a social worker.
Why do you
to
think
commit
that
a
they-
social study and to report it to a supervisor, and both of you are going to lie to a courtroom? It's pointless.
Why do you think that they lied? I mean, have you researched enough? We have our own, but I'd be curious. You as a
Two
parent-
reasons.
Okay.
One, from day one, they really hated me. And
Why?
I mean, if someone was really complaining about me services, I would do my best to make them happy.
Right.
But unfortunately, their business practices are a lot different than mine. And I was going to say something else, but I completely forgot. I'm overwhelmed thinking
You have
and
court
dealing
tomorrow.
with
People
DCFS.
are asking. They're asking, what can they do to support you? I'm suggesting we get a crowd there for you tomorrow. Anybody who can come to the Edelman Courthouse. I'm going to be there at 7:30 in the morning. We're going to have cameras. We need Dad to really be supported. We need a signs that say, Jason Jr. has been sacrificed. Don't sacrifice Sarah.
That's very true. And I admire and appreciate the love and support above and beyond anything I could even say in regards to thanks. But But given the facts that this is all unethical and illegal, I cannot see the judge continuing this. And if she does, I mean, the judge does have an astronomical amount of immunity. But for her to continue this and allow other county employees to be granted the same type of immunity as her is disgusting.
We need to know the courtroom that you're in.
I'm in Department 412, Julie Blackshaw.
Okay, Judge Blackshaw, Department 412. Do you know the floor?
Yeah, it's on the 4th floor of Monterey Park, California, Children's Court.
Okay.
I wish I could say a little bit more about the judge, but I have court tomorrow. And this is pertaining my daughter and our well-being and our future. But unfortunately, some of these individuals as adults make me sick. And when the incriminating information that comes out on these individuals is surfaced, I hope these individuals pay. I hope they pay dearly.
Folks, we have to wrap it up. This show is dedicated to a beautiful little boy that loved to go to Baskin Robbins after school. Dad picked him up every day.
Every single day.
Dad picked him up every day.
My son would let me know if he was a scholar or not. Every single day. I was a scholar. I did good. Oh, today I wasn't a scholar. He was a wonderful kid, man. I could not ask for anything more in this world than baby Jason and Sarah. And he's gone forever. I wish I could say something nice about the services that have been rendered pertaining this case. I really wish I could say something nice. It's all bad, and it's unbelievable. I, for one, I'm not going to tolerate it at all.
Folks, please be there tomorrow. Monterey Park, California. We will be there. 4th floor. Judge Blackshaw, Department 412. His fight isn't over. They're trying to sever his parental rights of his daughter.
Off of fictitious information. I'm losing my parental rights off of fictitious information.
Well, they're trying to. Folks, it's time that we step up to the plate. We, the people. Folks, they're stealing our children. They're trafficking them. They're raping them. They're selling them. They're doing whatever they want. They're going on this database of who, let's pick for the other crowd. Who would you like to adopt? Why don't you give me a description of what kind of a child you're looking for, and we'll go and find one. If a state is in a deficit, don't worry about it. The department can go in and take up enough kids, and guess what? We don't have to be transparent, so we'll find the money that way. Folks, when is it going to stop? It doesn't take a lot. It just takes an educated voice to say, I'm not going to participate anymore.
Yeah,
and just enough of them. Our children are dying. If it's okay with you to have children raped, tortured, and in the hospital and put in bad situations, even though you know that this child had severe health risks where he had to be in a certain situation, Dad sent multitude of doctor's reports and letters and warnings, and he even begged. I read a letter where he said, I'm begging you, please, you don't understand my son's health condition. Our Attorney General, Governor Brown, I'm sending this to you. Kamala Harris, I'm sending this to you. I'm sending this to the DA's office. If this is okay with our society, and I'm sending this to the chief of police, if this is okay to do, folks, we're in more trouble than anybody could ever realize. I want to thank UBN Radio because they are so proactive, and I'm so grateful to them for having met them. I want to thank.
The pleasure's mine. Thank you guys for having me here. I'm utterly disgusted when I hear about children hurt in any way. their future being jeopardized, their lifestyle, their well-being, just so that somebody can go home with a paycheck and full benefits to their beautiful lifestyle. Meanwhile, these hardship families are suffering. It's continuing to happen.
We must
But
put
while
a stop
people
to
like
it.
me are here, it's like a new life goal for me.
I said that many years
I'm
ago.
telling you, man.
Jason, I'm so grateful that you came tonight. I know this was so hard. I know everything that's been given to you has been so hard.
It's been very hard, but now that I move forward, I'm actually honored to do this. I am honored to do this.
We're so honored.
Honored.
We're so honored that you are a voice for these children.
I hope I find myself in different states, Sacramento, D.C., wherever I need to be to protest and be a voice for innocent kids that are rendering DCFS services.
Yes.
I want it to be known that as adults, as human beings, I don't give a crap if they're county workers or not. If you're committing a felony and criminal acts that are going to commit harm to the community, child or adult, but let alone it being a child, you're going to get handcuffed. You're going to be detained. You're going to go to jail. God forbid. God forbid the people in jail find out why you're there.
Yes. 650,000 children per year are taken under the wing of CPS, Child Protective Services, nationally. I think that number's low. I feel very confident that it is, actually. Folks, we'll see you. Our new time for the show is Sunday evenings, 7 p.m. We want whistleblowers to call us. If you're with the county and you know about this case, you don't have to tell us your name. Stand up for something that stands for something. Children don't deserve this, folks.
My kid was an innocent, happy little boy that put a smile on everybody's face. He never did anything wrong to anybody. And for what happened to him, it just makes me sick. It makes me think about Joe Walsh and him starting America's Most Wanted and what he did for the community and for the whole world, and how he prevented countless criminals from continuing their shameless, ruthless acts of criminal acts. I love that guy for what he did. And it's like an idol and a role model to me for what I've experienced in this department. I'm telling DCFS and the bad workers, I'm coming for you. Mark my words. Don't let me catch you. Don't let me hear about you breaking the law. Me and my allies that are LAPD supervisors, DAs that I know, and detectives that I know are going to come and arrest your ass. Mark my words. Do not get caught harming little kids and breaking the law. Your county immunity doesn't mean shit to me. Maybe other people it does, but not me, and not to other courtrooms that are going to prosecute you for the criminal acts that you're committing. So do not get caught. Mark my words.
Folks, if you want to contact us, you can go to www.nationalsafechild.com. There's a contact form there. Fill out the contact form. You can, fill out the contact form. We've got some real cases that are really changing the course of the playing field, folks. It's time for everybody to step up. UBN John has dedicated, donated his time. This is just an emotional show, and I feel. Do you have something else?
Yeah, to your question was what can anybody do to help pitch in to me or my case? What anybody can do is just help in any way possible to rectify the discrepancies that take place with families. If there's any way you could pitch in with advice, it doesn't have to be money, advice or any type of love or support that you give to any child is really important. Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of kids that really need help.
Yes.
And if you can help in any way,
That's
right. If it's words, if it's a donate, it could be anything, a donation of a toy.
Yes.
Anything you can do to help them is greatly appreciated. Plus, you'll feel better as a human being when doing so. Go and do it. You'll feel better about yourself, and you're really doing something good for your community and for the people that surround you. and for the people that really love you. I mean, if you were hurt in a car accident or something, strangers would come and save your life. Strangers are going to come and help you. Okay? So if you can help them, help them. I feel the same way. There's a lot of families out there that I don't even know. And if I heard about their case and I heard about their children being hurt and harmed through DCFS, I would probably take my time and put a report together like this and demand that social workers be arrested for penal code violations in regards to felony acts, felony
Yes.
criminal acts. I mean, maybe children's court will tolerate those felony criminal acts, but criminal court's not going to tolerate those.
No, absolutely not. Folks, we have to go. We've been allowed to stay on a lot longer than we should have because of Jason Jr. This show is dedicated to him. We honor you, Jason Jr. We honor every moment that you had here, every moment that your voice is coming through your father. And this fight is not over, just like it wasn't over for Gabriel Fernandez and still isn't. Jason Jr.'s name now is added to the little warriors that have placed their wings on, and we will continue. Folks, thank you for joining us. Sunday night, 7 p.m., www.nationalsafechild.com. UBN Radio, you can catch us on the archives if you didn't hear the show. ubnradio.com /National Safe Child. You can catch us live on Sunday evenings, 7 p.m., which is our new time, or you can go to YouTube under National Safe Child Show. We're going to post this in the next couple of hours as soon as John sends it. We're making it go viral. We're going to be working all night, and we're not stopping because we've had enough of the torture and, as Jason said, the gas chamber, the modern-day gas chamber. God bless you guys. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the National Safe Child Show on UBN Radio. For past episodes, visit the archives on ubnradio.com. And for more information, go to nationalsafechildcoalition.com. The views and opinions expressed in these radio programs are those of the individual hosts and do not reflect the official policy or position of Universal Broadcasting.